On the third day of Vlogmas, my art content will be rolling up an item drawing. Right, a D12 to figure out utility of this item. It's a staff. D8 to roll for rarity. It is uncommon. Alright, that leaves us 3, so I'm going to take a D6. Which of these uncommon staff? Again, Staff of the Python.
This is the art piece for Vlogmas I'm probably most concerned about, since I'm not super great with items. So that I don't nitpick this into eternity, I'm going to set a fairly strict timer on myself and approach this as kind of a super speed paint. Or do I feel like a line art drawing today? Oh, whatever, let's just get the juices going. Hey, wait a minute, have I even introduced myself? The third video for Vlogmas and I haven't even. Well, hi there then. I'm Kamala, I'm the Rainy Craze. Rainy is way more memorable than my regular name, so that's fine to call me Rainy. I am an aspiring illustrator, hence me practicing illustration type art so much, with the goal of living a fantasy art life in the mountains. Now, you might interpret that in a few ways. What I mean is that I want to make fantasy art because it's fun and I have a lifelong affinity to that genre. And in the mountains, because I want to live in the mountains. A nice little art studio in a sustainable house for long-term living in the beautiful Smoky Mountains. Ideally with a little regenerative farm and lots of acreage to ward off rural gentrification, which is a fear I've had since I was a little kid and the pony farm across the street got sold and turned into a huge trucking center. So urban gentrification can be a problem, absolutely, but it keeps the general urban footprint contained at least, and can improve infrastructure, whereas mid-century suburban sprawl practice... Okay, maybe I stay away from that conversation and go back to happy fantasy plots, like The Witcher. Or maybe this item story. The Staff of the Python. The Staff of the Python is a staff. When you attune to it, it can be turned into a giant constrictor python, which is super cool. You have to be like a druid, a cleric, or a warlock in order to use this thing. I think this is super cool. So actually I'm pretty impressed with how smoothly this came along, and I think that's because I'm actually a bit familiar with pythons already. I have a pet normie ball python, and a few years ago I did a study of ball python morphs for Inktober, but ball pythons are not giant constrictors, and this staff specifically turns into a giant constrictor when activated. Ball pythons are really just the wee little guys of the constrictors, so I've gone with more of a reticulated python for this staff. At reptile shows, I think I've seen one that was like 24 feet long. Gorgeous girl. Almost got a golden child retic because they're just so beautiful, but that's neither here nor there. So I looked up a few morphs for retics because they're famously not ball pythons and the genes express differently, which, if you didn't know, all of those different colors and patterns are called morphs, and they are a direct result of genetics, and breeding can make certain genetics do different things. It's really pretty cool, and it's a great way to understand Punnett squares from biology. Way easier than human genetics for Punnett squares, which they teach you wrong in high school. Like that eye color thing? No, that's not how it works in real life. But the morphs for snakes work exactly like Punnett squares dictate they should. Snakes are just way better. Anyway, I found inspiration from a couple generic morphs that complemented the wood color for the staff, and I played with new scale brushes that I forgot to install earlier. And near the end I toned down that effect so that the woody staff line art can shine. With this staff I have also included a cloaca as part of the wood grain design, as a nod to popular reptile leather products that feature the cloaca as a prominent part of the design, such as in handbags and shoes, which once you see it, you can't unsee it because you know that is the butthole on that woman's purse in line at the grocery store. I've thrown on some basic shading and just a little bit of highlight to bring the item up to par a little bit, not quite so flat, And I like how the original item art featured a little bit of a watercolor background behind it to help differentiate it. So I've also included a little bit of watercolor blob behind it in a nice contrasting blue. And here is that final artwork for the Staff of the Python. I'm super happy with how this came out and how quickly it came together. Thank you for sticking around and watching. Come back for the next video in which I will talk about my artist wish list while I'm practicing with new brushes. And have a super duper Christmas.
No, actually, that's not gonna work. Okay, so no, we're gonna re-roll that.